The knock on the door shattered the morning stillness. Jenna froze, her heart pounding. She opened the door to find two imposing figures in HOA uniforms glaring at her. "Ma'am, we've received a complaint about that ramp you've installed. It violates our community guidelines." The taller one thrust a thick stack of papers toward her. "You have 48 hours to remove it." Jenna's fingers trembled as she scanned the document. "But this is a reasonable accommodation for my disability. It's the law." The shorter official sneered. "Not in our neighborhood. You're disrupting the aesthetic. Take it down, or we'll have it removed and bill you for the cost." Jenna's eyes filled with tears of frustration. "You can't do this. My husband is in a wheelchair. He needs that ramp." "Not our problem." The taller one turned to leave. "You have 2 days. After that, it's coming down." As the officials strode away, Jenna collapsed against the doorframe, her world crashing down around her. Jenna burst into the living room, her face flushed with anger. "They're trying to make us remove the ramp. They said it violates their community guidelines." Her husband, Robert, gripped the arms of his wheelchair, his knuckles turning white. "But that's illegal. The Fair Housing Act requires reasonable accommodations for disabilities." Jenna paced the room, wringing her hands. "I know, but they're threatening to have it removed and bill us. We can't afford that." Robert's brow furrowed as he considered their options. "We have to fight this. I can't get in and out of the house without that ramp. This is our home. They can't just force us out." Jenna nodded, determination etching her features. "I'm going to call a lawyer. We have to stop them before they take it down." As she rushed to the phone, Robert gazed out the window, his jaw set with resolve. They had lived in this community for years, but now it felt like a hostile fortress determined to keep him on the outside. The lawyer's office was a hive of activity as Jenna recounted the HOA's ultimatum. The attorney, a seasoned civil rights litigator, listened intently, her brow furrowing with concern. "This is a clear violation of the Fair Housing Act. They can't discriminate against you because of Robert's disability." She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "We need to file an immediate injunction to stop them from removing the ramp." Jenna felt a surge of hope. "So we can fight this. We won't have to pay to remove it." The lawyer nodded decisively. "Absolutely. We'll file the paperwork today and get a hearing scheduled as soon as possible. In the meantime, I advise you not to remove the ramp. That would undermine our case." Jenna's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you. I was so worried they'd just come in and tear it down." The lawyer placed a reassuring hand on Jenna's arm. "Don't worry, we're going to make sure your family's rights are protected. This HOA is about to learn a very expensive lesson." As Jenna left the office, a glimmer of hope flickered in her chest. Maybe they could win this fight and keep the ramp that had become a lifeline for Robert. The courtroom was tense as the judge reviewed the evidence. Jenna and Robert sat anxiously, their eyes fixed on the stern-faced official. "The Fair Housing Act is clear on this matter," the judge declared, her gaze sweeping the room. "The Homeowners Association has a legal obligation to provide reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities." Jenna felt a surge of relief, but the HOA's lawyer leaped to his feet, his face flushed with indignation. "But Your Honor, this ramp is an eyesore that diminishes the property values of the entire community," he argued. "Surely there are other options that don't compromise our aesthetics." The judge's eyes narrowed. "The law does not make exceptions for aesthetics. The ramp is necessary for Mr. Paxton to access his home. Your association must allow it to remain." Robert squeezed Jenna's hand as the HOA lawyer slumped in his seat, his face a mask of defeat. They had won the first round, but Jenna knew the fight was far from over. As they left the courthouse, she couldn't help but wonder what other obstacles the HOA might throw in their path. The victory in court was short-lived. Within days, flyers began appearing around the neighborhood, stirring up resentment against the Paxtons and their unsightly wheelchair ramp. "It's an eyesore that brings down our property values." One neighbor shouted, cornering Jenna at the local grocery store. Jenna tried to reason with him, explaining the legal protections for people with disabilities, but the man refused to listen, his face contorted with anger. "I don't care what the law says. That ramp has no place in our community." As the confrontation escalated, Jenna felt a growing sense of unease. The once friendly neighborhood had turned against them, and she feared for Robert's safety. That night, as they sat in their living room, the doorbell rang. Jenna's heart raced as she peered through the window, only to find an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway. "Who is it?" Robert asked, his voice tinged with worry. Jenna opened the door to find a well-dressed man standing on their doorstep, his expression grave. "Mr. and Mrs. Paxton, I'm from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We've received a complaint about your wheelchair ramp, and I'm here to investigate." Jenna's mouth went dry as the HUD official stepped into their home, his gaze sweeping across the room. "I understand there's been some dispute with your homeowners association regarding the ramp," he said, his tone neutral. Robert cleared his throat, his fingers gripping the armrests of his wheelchair. "Yes, sir. They'd threatened to have it removed, even though it's a legal requirement under the Fair Housing Act." The official nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "I see. Well, let me assure you that we take these matters very seriously. Discrimination against individuals with disabilities is unacceptable." Jenna felt a glimmer of hope. "So you'll help us?" "The HOA is determined to have the ramp taken down, no matter what the law says." The official's expression hardened. "Rest assured, we will not tolerate any attempts to violate your civil rights. I'll be speaking with the HOA board immediately to make our position clear." As the official departed, Jenna and Robert exchanged a look of cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, the power of the federal government could outweigh the stubborn intransigence of their homeowners association. The atmosphere at the next HOA meeting was electric with tension. The board members, their faces tense, glared at Jenna and Robert as they took their seats. The HOA president, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Wilkins, cleared her throat. "As you all know, we've been dealing with an issue regarding the Paxton's wheelchair ramp. Well, it seems the Department of Housing and Urban Development has decided to intervene." A murmur of discontent rippled through the room, and Jenna felt a surge of satisfaction. The HOA's bluff had been called, and they were clearly rattled. Mrs. Wilkins continued, her voice laced with barely concealed frustration. "HUD has informed us that we must not only allow the ramp to remain, but also pay for any legal fees the Paxtons have incurred." The room erupted in a chorus of angry protests, but Mrs. Wilkins raised her hand, silencing them. "Furthermore, HUD has threatened us with hefty fines and possible federal intervention if we continue to harass the Paxtons or attempt to remove the ramp." Jenna watched as the board members exchanged nervous glances, their bravado visibly deflating. The power of the federal government had outmaneuvered their petty attempts at discrimination. As the meeting adjourned, Jenna turned to Robert, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "I guess the HOA learned a valuable lesson today. They can't push us around anymore." In the days that followed, the tension in the neighborhood began to ease. The flyers and angry confrontations had all but disappeared, and the Paxtons were finally able to enjoy the peace and comfort of their home without fear of reprisal. Jenna and Robert's victory, however, was bittersweet. They had been forced to fight tooth and nail to secure a basic right that should have been theirs from the start: the ability for Robert to freely access his own home. "It's a shame we had to go through all this just to keep a simple ramp," Robert said one evening, his gaze fixed on the structure that had become a symbol of their struggle. Jenna reached out and squeezed his hand. "I don't know, but at least we showed the HOA that they can't bully us. And who knows, maybe this will make them think twice before trying to discriminate against someone else." Robert nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I suppose there's that. And at least now we can finally relax and enjoy our home without constantly worrying about what they might do next." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the ramp, Jenna and Robert took a moment to savor their hard-won victory. Though the fight had been arduous, they had emerged stronger, their resolve unbroken, and their rights firmly secured.